Everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to do the high poly of Donald Duck. This is actually going to be not the easiest, but the high poly we're going to do from here on is mostly the cube high polys. So we're not going to do like the eye high poly. We might do this part later on, but right now, for the sake of, well, making it a lot easier to understand, we're going to do the cube high polys first. So let's go to this one here. An easy way to high poly, or I've learned this, is to go to Mesh Tools and insert an edge loop on the edges. Now, the key thing about inserting edge loops is what's going to happen when we insert them. So now we go to Object Mode, and the way that we're going to do this is kind of like a render. So as you can see, if we go to Smooth, it'll look like this. So we kind of have it at a rugged angle. Now let's go to Vertex, and we're actually going to use these to make the toes for his feet. So his toes are kind of like a wave. So what we're also going to do here is actually add a couple of divisions. So let's go to Modeling Toolkit, and let's see where it is, Add Divisions. Okay, that's too much divisions. So I think right now we should probably just add, it's never wrong to, put more edge loops in. It's always fine to put in as many edge loops as you think you're going to need. So now we can go back to Object Mode. Now what we're going to do here is make that little stub. So grab this part of the model and just move it outwards. So now what we got to do is kind of make this area, like make a ditch area sort of. So we're actually going to make this move out a lot longer. And that will be like his big middle area of his toe. Next we're just going to move these a little tiny bit. Let's just highlight this and move this out. Shoot, I highlighted the other ones. Why does this always happen? Okay, now we got it. There's really a key thing about his toe, and don't worry if it looks weird, we're putting it into smooth mode. And since we already have that, we don't really need this part, and we can just Control D this, and then move it over and rotate it to what we want it to be. This is actually going to be a lot more simpler for a lot of other designs, just because most of the things we're going to do for the high poly is mostly going to be the cubes. The reason I'm doing this is because I still don't know how to high poly like circles, and I'll probably do that with the Bumblebee remaster that'll be coming soon. Next, let's actually go for the tail here. I know I said I don't know how to do circles, but this won't actually be so difficult. The part that we're really looking for is like these two here. So first thing we're going to do is make this actually into vertex. We're not really going to add a lot of it, but we're also going to do something very different. We're actually going to delete every other like this. This is because once we put it into a smooth render, we should not have any triangular shapes inside of regular shapes. So now we have this, and now we can actually, we need to go underneath and do the same thing here. Let's first go to Object Mode, flip it around, and do what we just did before. Also guys, this is what we're going to do for this part. It's actually going to be a lot more simpler. We're going to go to Vertex and simply just make like two tall pieces. So what we're going to do is pick up these vertexes, move it up, then pick these and move these up. So now if we press 3, we're going to make it a lot more smoother. And just like not try to do this. And we're going to leave it at that. We're actually going to move these a little bit higher. And there we go. So there we go, we have his tail. If you're wondering why it looks this bad already, it's actually kind of pretty self-explanatory. What we're doing is we're actually making the shapes look great. So when at the end of the video, I'll show you all the shapes in smooth mode. Should definitely look like these smooth shapes. Next part we're going to do is actually going to be his hands. This was a part of the video last episode which we didn't actually do. So let's zoom in, and this part won't be as difficult. This is kind of how you can do a lot of these other shapes. Rinse and repeat this method for squares. Insert as many edge loops as you think you're going to need. And constantly check your smooth form. Why am I emphasizing smooth form? It's actually kind of simple. The fact is that smooth is going to be what we're going to show our shape in. So on keyboard that would be 3. So we have this good enough. Object mode. Let's go to vertex. So now we're going to make his fingers. This is actually going to be a hard part. Making those fingers look like fingers. So I'm going to just try to do this here. We're actually going to take these vertexes and try to make like a movement look of it. So I'm going to make like this. He's only going to have 3 fingers because there's 3 edge loops we made. Fingers are not looking so great right now. I think what we need to do is make this a lot thinner. So let's actually shrink this down a bit to look like this. I should have done that in the last episode, and I'm gonna just do the same here. And since both parts kind of are the same, so we're just gonna Control D another one of these and set them here. Next is actually going to be a very tough part. We need to figure out how we're going to get fingers. So we're actually going to put in some more edge loops just because they give us more vertexes. Or we're actually going to add some more at divisions. This does look a lot more convoluted, I can understand. So let's do this. Let's go back in there at divisions. We can actually just use these. This is fine. So we're gonna actually try to make the fingers. First step, let's turn this into vertex and take this part and try to make a finger out of it. These fingers are gonna look rugged, but in general, you should probably make your fingers look as closely as what I'm trying to do here. Is try to make the fingers as close as I can get to them as usual shapes. Actually move these out a little bit more. And we do have a really rough part. So if we go to 3, it doesn't really look like fingers right now, but the whole point of high poly is to get it as close as we can for when we fully render it. And in this channel, we still haven't gotten to a render part yet. So since that finger, this, we're actually going to do something interesting and rotate this, like so, and go back. Now we have something going on here. So we're going to do the same thing here. Move this outwards and rotate it up. And we have Donald Duck's hand. It looks rough, I can understand, but right now what we're trying to do with his hands is pretty much make kind of a motion, and instead of, looking for, we're trying to make it as accurate as possible right now. We're going to do the same thing here, except let's add the divisions now, and they look a lot smoother. That's actually a lot better. Let's actually delete this and put this on his hand over here. And what we're going to do for the model is start out back again on that hand. Basically look for areas where we can move these to make his fingers. So let's go to vertex. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm holding shift on my keyboard where I can actually click these to select them all and move them out. Then move them out like so. You can also just simply highlight the ones you want and do this. It's a lot easier for people, but I prefer to do this. So now what we're going to do is, just give me a second, we're going to go back. And as you can see, his fingers are moving upwards onto the presents. So what we're going to do is go in and select these. And we can rotate that like this. As you can see, it does look a lot nicer, and we have ourselves our first hand. What we're going to do is try to keep them as close as we can without making the model look extremely inverted. Next, we're going to do this hand. As you can see on this hand here, we actually have a longer finger. So instead of doing all the fingers like on this hand, we're actually going to just do this long finger and his thumb. So let's go into the shape. And this is not as hard as the last one. All we got to do is mostly highlight parts we want to take. So let's take. So actually going to move this out so we can see everything here. Let's take the vertex. And what we're trying to do is highlight like this top part. So highlight the part, and we're going to extend it drastically. This is to make that long cartoonish finger that he has on his other hand. And then we're going to do something similar here and raise it for his thumb. And then we're going to move this back, and if we go into smooth, it does look like what we want. So now we have his hands. The first one doesn't look as the best, but it's what is as close as we can get for now. Next, we're actually going to do that shirt part. So before we do that, we're actually going to move this more inward. And there's really something you can look here is how smooth it is. So it's not really going to involve a lot of poly. So now we're going to actually add in that. Take us into an edge loop and put a couple right here. If we look at the smooth form, this is what we're looking for. Go to object mode and simply go back to vertex. This video does seem a lot longer is because this is actually a lot longer of a process to do. Then we are gonna take these parts here and mostly move them back and rotate this. Not really any way to slice it, and I'm trying to do my best to keep under a time constraint. And we can do the same thing. This vertex. Mostly what we're trying to do is, since this is actually a lot longer, we're trying to go for the closest we can. So there we go, we have that part of his shirt. So we have that part here. So I remember last episode I was doing this part here and I was interested in this part. We're not actually going to do that part, but overall right now, the key part we're going to do is that beak. So we're going to try to get that curve that he has on his beak right here. So it doesn't really involve a lot. All we really need to do is get a couple of edge loops in. Then let's get some vertex. And basically what we're going to do is something not difficult. Simply we're going to take this, go to vertex, and basically just select this whole top part and rotate it. We're actually going to rotate it and move it upwards to kind of fit that kind of beak we're looking for. So if we go into 3, that's what we're kind of looking for in the model. There we go. Next, we're not actually going to do this triangle. It's not really, it's kind of self-explanatory when you look at it. It's mostly, there's not a lot of style in it. It's just a lot smooth, but overall, if you were to high poly this, all you'd really need to do is make that tiny hole. That's it. And for part of the last few we're going to do for this model, we're actually going to do that back part we put in last episode for his shirt on the back. That won't be actually as hard. It's kind of the same as this cube down here. So we're going to actually pull this one outwards so we can see a lot easier. So what we're looking is for that same idea here. So we're actually going to insert a couple of more edge loops to try to make it a lot more of a rougher edge. So we have that. That's what we're really looking for right now. Now what we're looking for is how Donald is holding it somewhat like on a curve. So we're just going to easily vertex. Now all we got to do is more or less just take this entire side and kind of try to get the curve like this. It's kind of simple. Now it comes a part which kind of doesn't make a lot of sense if you're going to look at it from here. We're going to move this part downwards. This is to match the curve that comes from that. So this actually does look a lot similar. So we're going to move this back to its original spot. And really all we have left for most of our high poly for the final part of this model is not so difficult. So we do have a little issue here where it's still selected on the vertex. So we're just going to do this, and if we do it now, it should be okay. And it is. So we're just going to move this back into the Donald Duck model. And that, ladies and gentlemen, right now is the rest of the parts are pretty simple. We don't really need to do a lot here. All we gotta really do is just insert a couple of edge loops and we should be done for most of the model. Considering a lot more of these circles that he has, like his eyes, don't really need to be high polyed because they're circles. So if you look, we have the first block, the second block, and finally the third block, which will not actually have as many edge loops because it is a lot more circular. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a fully modeled Donald Duck with a couple of high poly in it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below what I should do next. And also, if you guys want me to, keep working on modeling or any ideas that you guys might have, please put them in the comments below. If you're seeing this right now and thinking why have I only done the blocks, is because I still don't know how to do the circles. And we're looking at the circles right now. They don't really need to be high poly. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, and bye.